Welcome to the Baker and Big D Sports Show with special guests this week.
Valley Free Radio, WXOJLP 103.3, Northampton.
9 Volt Heart on WXOJ in Northampton brings you the best acoustic music every Saturday evenings from 5 to 7 p.m. My name is Ed Malachowski, and I host this Americana-based music program because I love this alternative country music. I focus the program on artists coming to our Pioneer Valley's venues, along with a host of local musicians as well. Expect in-depth interviews with the artists, both local and touring, as well as ticket giveaways to all the shows you want to see. Tune in to American Roots and String Music on 9 Volt Heart every Saturday from 5 to 7 p.m.
Plastic, silver, 9 Volt Heart.
You don't let your kids play in the toilet. That's what it's like when pet owners don't pick up pet waste. Irrigation and stormwater can carry this pollutant to storm drains and retention areas where our children play. Do the right thing. For yourself and your community, pick up after your pet. Bag it and properly dispose of it in the trash. Remember, only rain in the storm drain. Brought to you by Stormwater Outreach for regional municipalities. Visit Storm at www.azstorm.org.
The views and opinions expressed on WXOJLP are solely those of the original hosts of their respective programs. These views and opinions do not necessarily represent those of Valley Free Radio Incorporated, its volunteers, or any other hosts, guests, or programs.
And there it is, the stirring classic battles, Sam Spence. And, I don't want to, this is Baker and Big D sports show. I don't want to think that we do classic battles. But sports always has a higher opinion of itself than it really deserves often. Although this is a much different time. But anyway, that's... I'm in charge now at the studio, so Matt doesn't get to pick his usual more up-tempo music. And wait till you see what we're going to play for our musical break. So I'm Big D.
I'm Matt. Welcome to the show. Thanks for listening.
And we have back, by popular demand, Cornelius, my son-in-law. And welcome, Cornelius.
Hi, Derek. Thank you for having me again.
Yes, and I think of myself as a jock, even though I can't even jump off the ground. Matt thinks of himself as a jock. He teaches sports, and I have to say that I often misjudge people. And knowing you for a long time, I did not think of you as an athlete. I knew you're in very good shape and all that, but I didn't really think, Cornelius, that. And then I hear this story, which you got to tell us about. What helped you get to college in South Africa?
Yeah, well, I like sports a lot, and I like playing sport. So the last week I did say that when I was growing up, I played a lot of soccer. But then when I went to college, played karate, and I was part of the karate team, went to a few tournaments. And then for my junior and senior year, that's when I got like the university sports scholarship that covered part of my tuition.
So, Matt, we got to talk with respect to Cornelius, man. This guy, he's walked the walk. He's been there. We're just dilettantes. He's really got the scholarship.
So, did you need so it was karate?
Yes, that's karate.
So, are you like a black belt?
I went up to brown belt, second Q, but then dislocated my toe of each. That was a serious injury. Then I stopped.
Wow, that's cool. I did. Growing up, I took karate lessons. I made it up to, I think it was blue, green stripe, something like that.
Yeah.
We want to get my kids into karate.
Oh yeah, it's a nice sport.
Yeah, it's great. Discipline and self-confidence and things like that. I think it's great for, and we want to get our kids into that.
So, did you have karate meets, or did you compete against other teams?
Yes, we would compete against other teams. I would also compete like individuals. Most of the time, the competition, there's kata where you showcase your moves, and there's komite, which is like the sparring fights type of competition. So we'll do both.
And so, was there winners on points as a team, or? Yes.
So each and every thing you do, there's points that you score. So for the fights, it's semi contact. So for each point, the judge have to say it's a point, or there's 2 points that you can get at the end of the day. Most of the tournaments, they set a limit to, maybe they're saying the first to reach 7 points or something like that.
Was your team all black?
No, my team was mixed. In fact, because it was in college, and our college was mixed. There's a lot of people from all over, like international students as well. So, and our team was pretty mixed.
And the same with the teams you competed against?
Yes, but in tournaments we would compete with different teams, not just only university teams. Even though there will be other teams from universities, but there'll be teams from like communities who would also join the tournaments, depending on what tournaments we went to. So they would like maybe some companies, like maybe some one of the biggest sponsors was the Black Cat peanut butter sponsor, which sponsored karate. So
and you still like peanut butter, right?
Yeah, I like peanut butter. Yeah. So those would be open for all teams from all communities. So then you'd have different teams. Some are mixed, some are predominantly from one community. So yeah.
Well, it's funny. I had as a freshman in high school, I was 6 feet, so I was sizable, and so the coach of the football team asked me to try out for football, and I went out for football, and was going to be a offensive end, and sprained my big toe on the first day, and by the second day I quit. I figured if my toe hurt so much. Now, I was kind of wimpy. For karate, do you kick with karate?
Yes, you kick and you open shoe with no shoes. So
so your big toe was legitimate. Mine was just I realized I was not cut out for football. American football, which actually, so maybe we should start with soccer, because Cornelius may be able to add a little depth to our discussion. But I know that the I think it's NSWL, something women's league, professional women's league, is going to be on TV today live, if I read it right. So they're going to have a live. They're going. I don't know where they're going. I want to say I'm not Orlando. I'm not sure where. Like 8 teams are going. No, that's right. The Orlando team just dropped out. That's right. They're in Utah. And they're going to play through like the 27th of July in a sort of tournament. It has a lot of the players from the Women's World Cup champions.
The national team?
But not all. And then they just had a team that was from Connecticut, I think, drop out because of Corona. So, I mean, the big issue as we start to see live sports is what factor will Corona be, and will it stop actual competitions and maybe even close down scheduled leagues?
Yeah, Dale, they got there's actually, so I just Googled, there's, let's see, 2 games on today.
And are they on like CBS or something? Does it say?
They've got to be.
I think they're on a net. Yeah, I think they're on an something that most people will be able to see.
Yeah, I'm gonna look. I'm gonna look to see what channel, but it doesn't say what.
But Matt, when was the last live sports event you saw? I haven't been watching Korean baseball.
I'm not doing Korean baseball.
Yeah.
The last live sporting event
for me, it was a pro basketball game back in whenever that was.
No, I did watch the Tom Brady, Peyton Manning golf.
Painful!
I watched that. I've been watching a little bit.
I said sports.
Hey, I'm going to play some golf tomorrow.
You are? Oh, cool.
Yeah,
cool. In a foursome or in a twosome?
Yep. Yeah, my brother and 2 college buddies.
And so, are you all going to carry your bags?
You're allowed 1 person per cart.
So you're going to have four. So
we'll have
four electric carts.
We social distance. I usually hit it into the woods over there. Another woods over there. So it.
Yeah. How many golf balls do you bring? Assuming you're going to lose a few.
Quite a bit.
Yeah. Right.
Quite a bit. Yeah. I actually, the last time I played a few weekends ago, over here in Agawam, and I played the entire round with only 1 ball.
Wow. And can you hit a wood?
A tree, yeah. It's a very forgiving. It's a zigzaggy course, so it's very wide open, very forgiving.
Good.
I didn't
That's
hit
good.
a whole lot of fairways.
Yeah.
But 1 ball. Nothing not a lot of water. But this course is a little bit more challenging.
Cornelius, you ever been on the golf course?
No, I haven't played golf. The only sports that I play, I prefer where you run and sweat.
Yeah.
So,
No, there's a real famous book by, I think, John Feinstein called Golf, A Good Walk Spoiled. But it's a beautiful game. It's really hard. I actually, in college, got a hole-in-one. So,
wow.
And I was a caddy. That was the way I earned a lot of money, carrying 2 bags for 4 painful hours, finding the golf balls that the dentist would hit into the woods. And this was a Scottish-type course in Gloucester. And then eat a little lunch, and then go out at 1 to 5, carrying 2 bags. And it was good money at the time.
My grandfather is the one who got me into golf. And honestly, I was, maybe a junior, senior in high school, and would play every once in a while. And then through college, I would play with some college friends, and I would try to be good at it, and it was very frustrating because
it's really, really demanding. And I mean, the thing is, then you hit 2 good shots, you get on the green, and you 4-putt.
Yeah, exactly. And that was the frustrating part for me. And for me, Daryl, you know me. There's somewhat athletic. I would never say I'm an elite athlete at anything, But I'm coordinated enough,
Right,
and it was so frustrating to say, like, all right, just hit the golf ball. Why won't it go straight?
Well, plus you're a PE teacher, so you study a lot of form and technique.
And that was it. Like, I
stuff
knew,
like that.
all right,
Yeah.
I know the cues. Why can't I do it? And it was just but once I mentally accepted the fact I'm not good at golf,
Right.
I'm not ever going to play enough to get good at golf, and I just accepted it for what it is. And you know what? Let me go out to the golf course, have some beers, hang out with friends. You know, the beautiful outdoors.
Yeah, it's great. It is
embrace
great.
it.
Yeah.
Now
there's and there is some chance, I think, of thunder showers afternoon today. So
yeah,
keep an eye open. That's scary on the golf course. Thunder showers.
I played down in Florida, and we got caught in a thunderstorm down in Florida. That was no joke.
And so, do you go under a tree, or no?
No, you're zooming right back into.
But if you're out in the open, aren't you a target too for lightning? I don't know.
I'm hopping in the golf cart, and once they hit the siren, I'm out.
Yeah. Now, let's go back to soccer for a minute. Now, Cornelius, I think you can update us a little bit on some of the leagues in Europe, and I don't know if Africa has soccer things going, but give us some information.
Well, yeah, so far, I mean, in Europe, Germany, the Bundesliga has been open for quite a while, and they've been playing to the empty stadiums. And yeah, they did have some of the few players test positive, but those would just be not come and stay in quarantine for 2 weeks before they could come back again. But they've been continuing with the league. So they've had some hiccups here and there. But recently, people have been more excited because the English Premier League has also just opened, and there's been some few games that are going on. So it looks like in Europe, they are pushing through, even with the corona. So whoever the player gets one, they have to quarantine, but then the games keep on going on.
And didn't you... Good. Go ahead.
Yeah, in South Africa, so far there's any contact sport has been stopped. Recently, they just announced that they'll be playing non-contact sport. So things like cricket will be going on, like tennis will be going on, but contact sport will still stopped. So that's not coming back yet.
And didn't you say Spain has the league too? I'm not sure.
Oh yeah, I think Spain La Liga they've also just opened, so they are also going on with the soccer matches.
Again, I don't understand much about the kind of leagues, but there was an article that Liverpool was celebrating because they finally won something. So I don't know what league that is, but they must have had in one of them. They must have had sort of a final.
Well, but I think the last season at some point Liverpool was doing well, but then it got stopped. But I don't know. I haven't seen that article.
It said it was like in yesterday's paper. It said they were celebrating something. So maybe it was just making the playoffs.
Yeah, I wonder if the league was just given to them because they were ahead, even though they didn't complete the whole league. But yeah, they haven't won in a long time. So at that point, they were ahead when all the coronavirus struck and things stopped.
So, soccer, I mean, obviously you bump into each other.
Yes.
And you have nothing on your face, so that when you're bumping into somebody, there's droplets being kind of exchanged. So I would assume that they test frequently.
Yes, they've got frequent tests. In fact, here in Germany, they make sure that the frequent tests, even tests before games and monitoring. So they try to make sure that whoever is in the field has tested negative for that time.
And I wonder if the teams stand socially distanced. They probably don't, because they probably practice together. They're more like we do with family units, like when you were staying with
I
me.
think they have this. In Germany, they quarantine together for each and every game. So 2 weeks before the game, the whole team gets together and they stay together.
Well, the good thing about what's happening in soccer is it's giving some hope to other sports that once they open, maybe they'll be able to stay open.
yeah, given that, I think the other thing is that if the virus is low in the community, therefore the spread is also low to players. So that helps to keep the numbers low. But if then the numbers and the spread is high, then you might have too many players infected at one time, of which that would be a problem.
Now, a big thing that's happening in our society is, Black Lives Matter movement and, the George Floyd. And so a question I would throw out to you two is, if George Floyd was still alive, would the Confederate flag be gone?
Would it be gone?
Yeah. In other words, it's gone everywhere except on the Mississippi state flag, and I think they've got to change. And so, would that have happened without George Floyd's death?
Eventually, I don't think.
Yeah.
Eventually, I do. I kind of feel like this has been this has been brewing for a while. You can even go back to Ferguson, Missouri, where a lot of the Black Lives Matter movement, as far as I know.
Yeah, that's 4 or 5 years ago. That's when it started. Yep. So you can go back. So what was that? 2014 or 15? I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I also think, the George Floyd killing was a catalyst, but this year was somehow coming. So at some point it was going to happen.
But it's dramatic. And, I read one comment that the Confederate flag to blacks is like the swastika to Jews. And, and so Mississippi is a really interesting case because they have a little mini Confederate flag on their state flag, and they've debated for years whether people bring it up every year, and they've voted it down. And so it'll be interesting to see if they do, and if they don't vote it down and they keep it on their flag, will some of the college athletes participate?
Well, so that's how I was actually going to go there, Daryl, and tie it back into sports. There's the football running back, and I can't think of his name.
College or pro?
There's a college running back for Mississippi.
Okay. Yeah.
Mississippi State, and
right, he's spoken up.
Yes, Kylan Hill.
Okay.
Kylan Hill spoke up, and I think this could be an interesting debate conversation we have, and said that he can no longer play for Mississippi State with the current state flag, and unless the flag is changed, I'm not playing. What are your thoughts on that, Daryl? I'll go to you first, Daryl. What are your thoughts on that?
I agree. I agree with them. I mean, it's people want to say, well, it's our history. Yeah, it is. But the thing was, it represented slavery. It represented having human beings in bondage. And there's just nothing you can say that's good about that. So I feel it has to be gone. What about you, Cornelius?
Yeah, and I think it's good that they are bringing this up and people are protesting, because somehow things won't change without some pressure behind. So I think it's good that the college athletes are bringing this up and putting pressure, and I think that would be a catalyst to also move the state itself.
Let's go to NASCAR and Bubba Wallace for a second.
Yeah,
I have to say I'm very impressed by Bubba Wallace, and he and the fact that the Confederate flag was basically like NASCAR's recognized flag. It was part of every NASCAR event, because most of them are in the South, in the deep South.
Yeah.
And so the fact that he got NASCAR has been pretty impressive to me. And so even though this noose incident has been sort of reinterpreted, once you hear the real story about it. So the NASCAR discovered that in Bubba Wallace's garage there was a noose. Bubba Wallace never saw it until after NASCAR called him up. It turned out when the FBI investigated that it had been there for some period of time. But Bubba's introduction to it was the head of NASCAR calling him up, crying, and just feeling horrible. So the fact that it turned out that maybe it wasn't directed toward Bubba, that it was just directed to blacks in general. I mean, a noose is just like the Confederate flag. It is a potent symbol.
Yeah.
Well,
when that story came out, it was shocking because there was a noose in Bubba's garage, and we were all like really angry as to what happened. But when they started explaining that, okay, maybe the noose was there beforehand, then somehow it did calm things down. But why have a noose there in the first place? That also is
because it doesn't help
pulling
the garage door up.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And it takes.
I've seen
so
those
there was
explanations.
intent on whoever did it, whether it was directed at Bubba Wallace or not. What do you think, Matt?
Well, I think it's, as I understand it, it wasn't directed at Bubba Wallace because it was there for at least over a year. And when they're assigned garages, I think it's kind of
random.
And so,
but it wasn't without intent. Whoever made that,
made it, whenever they made it, there was some, whether it was just meant to be, as I understand it, it was meant, it was hanging as a garage pull, but it was a noose.
Right.
So
it wasn't it's not like double knotting your shoes, your shoelaces.
You're right. Like my logic is, all right, well, if you need a pull, a rope, pull a garage, it could just be a rope.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My logic tells me a NASCAR joke was to hang a noose.
Yeah.
But that's inappropriate.
Right.
So I think, and I want to go back to Kylan Hill quickly, but I'll finish up this. I think NASCAR handled it the right way.
Yes.
Initially, I think they jumped to conclusion, which I think was the right thing to do.
Right.
And get ahead of it, because if this had been something that was ill-intentioned or aimed towards Bubba Wallace, NASCAR had to get in front of it. I think they did the right thing.
And it reflects that they're very, very sensitive. And I appreciate they made a quick change. I mean, the Confederate flag was part of their being.
Yep. And I think, and that's part of the sort of the Black Lives Matter movement that I think it's allowing people to self-reflect.
Yeah.
And so I think, and I'm not a NASCAR fan, but I think what NASCAR is realizing, and I'm speaking NASCAR as everybody, I'm not pointing to one specific individual, but I think what they're realizing is, just because like one individual, I am not racist. If I'm allowing these things to fly, if I'm allowing these flags to fly, I am accepting and allowing some of these hateful feelings, and that's going to turn people off to your sport and organization anyway.
Yeah.
So I think they handled it the right way. What I would like to see NASCAR do, and this is sort of like what I was talking about last week, is like what can some of these teams and organizations do to move forward, is now to be like NASCAR has sort of the street credit almost, so to speak,
right,
to say, look, we are serious about getting in front and changing some things, so let's do that. And I would like to see, I loved what the NASCAR drivers did for Bubba Wallace, where they all as one.
Oh my God, was that moving?
And
that was
pushed his
moving.
car.
And
that was great.
And then the other thing was that Bubba works for the 82-year-old famous Richard Petty, who never comes to the track at all. And he came there to stand beside Bubba. I mean, and so Richard Petty grew up when the South was really, the Jim Crow era.
Yeah, I think, like I said, so with NASCAR, I think they jumped to conclusions. They were very reactionary, quick. They needed to be, and I think now is their opportunity.
It was a good mistake.
It was a good mistake because going the other way would have been a bad mistake.
And I like what you're saying too, because when we would always discuss Kaepernick several years back, you would always say that he needs to push it toward positive change, support organizations, and he smartly did too. And you're right, and I agree. NASCAR, this is an opportunity for them to really expand their base.
Yep, I really hope NASCAR doesn't. All right, they were full throttle, and now let's pump the brakes and slow. Nope, I think NASCAR keep pushing.
Well, they're not exactly pumping the brakes. So New Hampshire has a little NASCAR event. I don't know anything about it, but they're actually going to have fans in it, in the stands, which is very interesting. So that was just in the paper. One other thing I want to do, and then after that we'll take a little break. But I found out about this guy, Willie T. Ribbs. So there was one black NASCAR driver in history, and this is way back. I think he's 70 or 80 now or something like that. But he was, he survived, but he makes it very clear that he was not treated nicely. He was not given the respect that Bubba Wallace is. And apparently there's a little documentary coming out about him. But here was one quote. He had his dad, he would go and complain to his dad about how mean people were being to him. And his dad said, "If a rattlesnake bites you, bite him back." I like that. I like that a lot. Willie T. Ribbs is look for him. All right.
Daryl, what do we have because I just want to talk about, I want to go back to Kylan Hill quickly.
Go ahead.
Do we have time for our break?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
So, back to the running back, I kind of, when I first heard the story, it's interesting to me when I hear, this was the Mississippi flag before he came to Mississippi State, before he signed his letter of intent, before he stepped on the football field. And so when I first heard this story, I'm not going to play anymore unless the flag is changed. My first thought was, sounds like Kaepernick, right? I'm going to do this until there's change.
Yeah.
And I said, well, you knew what the flag looked like. But then to Cornelius, to your point, is if you don't put pressure behind it, you're just going to have people say, "Oh, okay, yeah, don't we'll change it next year. We'll change it next year." So I understand that. What I would like, and again, I'm kind of now in a, all right, use your platform to raise awareness, and then now let's do something about it.
Yeah.
I'd be curious to see. I wouldn't want to see Kylan Hill transferred to another team to play. Put pressure behind it. Stay on the roster. Refuse to play. Be part of the team and refuse to play. And I think if that's the pressure, that if you want to have this flag changed, that's what you do. Just to say, that's where I see. That's just, I don't think you're using that platform in the right way. And I think it's interesting now. I think it's a good thing you see college players, kids that are 20 years old, realizing their power, and not just in these racial situations, but even just, it used to always just be the college coach, would take their checks and they would tell kids where to play, how to play, what to do, and college kids were sort of at the mercy of a lot of these college coaches. And now it seems to be college athletes are realizing that they have a platform. In a lot of states and a lot of areas, college sports are bigger than the state professional team.
Yeah, or they don't have a professional team. Mississippi has no professional teams. No, they don't have anything.
Alabama.
Yeah.
And so you have a lot of these college athletes, and it's harder because they're there for a few years and then they move on to professional, so they're not always invested professionally in that community, but a lot of these college kids grew up in that community.
But Matt, what you're talking about too, though, is what's really been most remarkable and really most exciting about all the changes that are happening is that it's led by young people. And young people, old people like me, we screwed things up. And you guys are millennials, right? I guess. And you doing your job of screwing things up too. But kids, they have every right to demand change. What do you think, Cornelius?
Yeah, I mean, some of the change has been led by young people. When young people stand up and demand change, because that is like a sign of the future and some sign of what the future should look like. And when people stand up, young people stand up, there tends to be some change.
Well, what about in your studying? You were only 3, I guess, when apartheid ended. But was that movement led by young people?
Yes, there's one of the biggest protests was in 1976 when people were protesting because black people were being forced to study content in Afrikaans, but then people were protesting against that. It was the young people, it was high school students that led that protest. They ended up that now everything is in English.
Now, and Afrikaans is a language.
Yes,
with sort of Dutch,
language.
With sort of
it's a Dutch derivative.
Yeah, and so was that when you started school? Was that the language school was taught in?
No, there were some schools that were teaching content in Afrikaans, but there were some schools that were teaching content in English. So back then in 1976, they were trying to push Afrikaans to black students to study in Afrikaans. Of which that's when the high school student led a protest to saying we won't be studying in Afrikaans because that limits you in terms of international exposure or anything like that. If you study in language that is very limited, has limited use, you can't engage. So then that's why they push towards English, because at least it's more international, and then you can interact more with the international community.
All right. Well, let's take a little break. This is about a 4-minute song, and we have a lot to talk about when we come back. NBA, baseball. Baseball's
back.
College football, pro football, and even hockey. So here we go. This is Megan Mazzaferro's favorite song.
Oh boy.
Discouraged, though I realize it's hard to take courage in a world full of people. You can lose sight of it all. The darkness inside you can make you feel so small. Show me a smile then. Don't be unhappy. Can't remember when last saw you laughing. This world makes you crazy, and you've taken all you can bear. Just call me up, 'cause I will always be there. And I see your true colors shining through. I see your true colors. That's why I love you. So don't be afraid to let them show your true colors. True colors are beautiful. I see your true colors shining through. I see your true colors, and that's why I love you. So don't be afraid to let them show your true colors. True colors are beautiful.
And that is part of Anna Kendrick and Justin Timberlake, True Colors. And so we're back.
Great song.
Yeah, it is a beautiful song. It's
My boy's favorite movie, Trolls.
Yes, Trolls. Yep.
Love it.
Yeah. But in this, I know that Megan's not listening, and in this space of saving time, I shortened the song a little bit, and I'm sorry if you're disappointed in anyone. But so, where do you want to start, Matt?
Let's do baseball, because we've been trash talking baseball for a while.
And and they deserve it, man. They blew this so bad, and it really indicates real trouble for next year. But
yes,
I read one story that's really scandalous, is that teams in Latin America are signing 12-year-old prospects and 13-year-old prospects.
Wow.
Which is, I find, that's child labor. That's horrible. But anyway, that was just a story I saw yesterday.
I mean, yeah, I know. I didn't hear that.
Yeah.
Honestly, it doesn't surprise me.
No, it sure doesn't.
But so they're signing these kids and they're letting them play ball and paying them?
I don't know. I don't know if they give them a bonus. I just sort of read a brief story about it. I think we'll hear more.
Yeah.
But so baseball's set up. It's basically divided into 3 leagues: East, a West, and a Central.
Yep.
And 2 teams are really, really benefited by this: L.A. Dodgers and New York Yankees. It was hard to say it. New York Yankees, yes. And why are they? Because they're going to play 60 games, and they're going to have, I think, 4 other teams in their division that they're going to play 10 games against. Now, for the Yankees, that means 10s against the Red Sox, which will give them a little bit of a struggle. But then they're playing Baltimore. And who's the other one?
Toronto.
Maybe Toronto, or just Toronto and Central. I don't know. But anyway, they're being projected to get in LA to about 38 to 40 wins out of the 60 games, and that probably they'll end up in the first place in their 2 divisions. Minnesota will probably end up first in the Central.
So they're kind of projecting, and same thing with the Yanks, to be like around that 40-win team. Here's what baseball, though. So yeah, there's 3 sort of divisions,
right?
And basically, there's like the AL East and the NL East is considered the East side, right? So,
right. So the Yankees and Red Sox are going to play the Mets and also the Senators.
Mets, the Nationals, the Braves,
and I guess that Miami team probably.
And Miami, right? Yeah. So they're playing 10 games each against their division. AL East teams are playing 10 teams against each other, and then I believe it was like 6 games of the NL East.
Yeah, something like that. Well, there's only 20 left after that. I think
so. Yeah, 4 to 6 maybe in each of the opposite NL side. The tricky part is this is no indication of a good baseball team. Like how we're used to it. Baseball normally playing 182 games. Now you're playing 60. I mean,
162, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
And but you're absolutely right.
It's not gonna. The winning team. It just.
Well, just as an example of what you're saying, last year after 60 games, the Washington Senators were like 15 games under 500, and they ended up winning the championship. So that something similar could happen. A really good team could get a crucial injury, have a slump, and miss out.
It's going to be extremely difficult to overcome a slow start because you're not in it for the long haul. Like, think of all the trade deadline, what we're used to baseball. Everybody, we're going to have to do, it is the best of a bad situation now, but if you get off to a bad start and you're done, you're done. You're not going to be able to jump over teams to make the playoffs. And because you're only seeing the same teams, I don't know. It'll just be interesting. But baseball next year, baseball's long game is in a world of hurt.
It really is. Because what
big time.
They indicated that between the strong union and the obstinate owners, that there's very little room for compromise. And so they have to come up with a whole new collective bargaining agreement before next season, I think. And so, baseball, even right now, the fact that the soccer league is starting, the women's soccer league, on live TV, next Wednesday or Thursday, the 4th, whenever it is, should have had baseball starting if they could have, figured it out.
I just think attendance at baseball stadiums is going to be all-time lows. Obviously, this year, you're going to have these games televised. You can't go to the stands. People are going to put it on their TVs and watch it from their living rooms and travel around their house. I personally, the bad taste in my mouth of how all this went down will remain. And the idea that if I want to watch a Yankee game and pay hundreds of dollars to go to Yankee Stadium, is just not going to happen.
Yes, and that was a big part of the team's income. Now, one interesting thing that's coming up is the way that the games are going to be broadcast. So, Cornelius, going way back, baseball has been the big sport in America forever. And so way back, the early games were, this is way before TV, what happened in the game was sent over the Western Union, in Morse code, and then there would be an announcer who would say, "Oh, there's a sharp ground ball, and Ty Cobb gets thrown out at first base," and so there was no visual, and the games were recreated, from a great distance, and we're actually going to be moving back to that a lot because they're not going to allow all the announcers so I think that when you're the visiting team, you are going to have to use there's only going to be like one feed, which will be the hometown's feed, and it has to be kind of neutral, which is really hard for these announcers because they're all what are called homers. They love their home team.
Think of this though, Daryl. How cool would it be if baseball was able to take an XFL approach to insight? If you had dugouts and bullpens mic'd without fans, think about how baseball can create excitement for this. And how cool would it be to have an Aaron Boone, or I don't even know who the manager is for the Red Sox now.
Ron Renicky.
there's so much strategy in every pitch, and so much algorithms now with baseball. Hey, this guy shipped 5 feet over to third base side. How cool would it be to hear that in real time while you're watching? I think that would be tremendous. But baseball has a cheating problem. So you'd also...
Right, but
right?
It's these sports that are opening up have a wonderful opportunity to be inventive, because you can do stuff this year that, because it's a shortened year for almost all the leagues, hey, if it doesn't work, then don't do it next year. But at least you tried it. Like, one thing that's happening in baseball is that it looks like the DH will be on all teams, which, Frank, honestly, is a good thing.
Yeah. But that would be cool. Like, if you could be, while you're watching, it not, maybe not in real time, but like a mic'd up kind of thing. Hey, listen to the strategy behind these guys. Hey, listen to the dugout reaction or the bullpen reaction after this home run kind of thing. And that would be fun.
Well, okay, but here, let me ask Cornelius a question. So, Cornelius, you still play soccer, right, with your friends, in college?
Yeah, we usually just play for fun, like after hours.
If you were mic'd up during one of your games, is there a lot of swearing that goes on?
Of course, in the game, there's a lot of swearing.
Yeah. I'm very curious what major sports are going to be. I think basketball's even worse than baseball. But
in terms of swearing,
So what are they going to do?
Well, yeah, but so I agree with you. So it can't be real time. But football players are mic'd up.
Well, yeah, and every once in a while
the production company is going to cut and paste audio and pick out the good one.
All right.
And so, but going back to the baseball, I just wouldn't trust the Astros or the Red Sox or even the Yankees, because I think the Yankees dabbled in some of this sign stealing stuff too. They would be trying to get an advantage by listening to managers' audios in the dugout and things like that. So,
but could they? I don't know. It's interesting. So, but I think I hope that they do get inventive and try stuff. Because
but having a mic, it will take a lot of adjusting to. I mean, there's a lot of talk, even self-talk that you do out loud, and talking to other players. That is not really, So
and also the thing is, when you are actually playing, all you're thinking about is the competition. So you're not, you don't have that little filter. Like, we're on radio right now, and we know that even if we commonly swear in some way, we know right now we're not doing that. But if we were banging against each other, plus if you got banged and you thought it was unfair, Aaron Judge takes out Pedroia at second base, and he's like 5 times bigger. I got a feeling that Pedroia is going to be a little salty in his response. But I guess, Matt, you're right that the networks can control it to a degree.
You can control it, and I think even if you heard the passion that the athletes have, well, if you beep out a swear word, that's going to still bring you, and that's going to connect you.
Yeah.
You see the players yell and scream. They struck out, and son of a, and you beep that out. That brings you that's the passion that they have.
Now, I didn't mention this last week. I don't know if you've heard about it, but there's apps that are being developed so that so one is called Hear My Cheer. And so you record yourself on this app. And, you're watching a film of Jeter, Aaron Boone hitting a home run against the Red Sox to put him out of the playoffs. And, you go, yeah! You scream. Your scream is recorded and is part of the soundtrack that you will hear when you watch the game. So it's possible that these games won't necessarily be silent.
It sounds like a nice app.
Yeah. Now, I don't know if they're going to... Well, and then I know that in the NBA... So they're going to be in a bubble in Orlando. They're going to allow the other players who aren't playing to be in the audience. so there will be some people in the audience.
What do we have, a few minutes left?
Yeah, we got like 4.
So quick, let's just touch upon basketball, and I guess we'll wrap it up.
Yeah.
Basketball just started their mandatory testing, and so what they're doing now, every 2 days, I believe, the players have to get tested. And what their goal is to make sure, with as much certainty as possible, is to make sure they're bringing healthy people into a clean bubble. And so their thought process is, if I'm testing these guys every 2 days, we can catch, if you're sick, we can catch it before we bring you to the bubble to keep the bubble clean.
Now, one concern that people had, the athletes themselves, was that they didn't want to be taking tests from the general public. Cornelius, is there a shortage of tests? I still kind of hear stories that people have trouble getting tested.
Well, from what I heard is that there's still, there's a limit in terms of the number of tests that can be done per day. So somehow,
and then I saw in Florida cars lining up a mile long hours before trying to get tested. So that'll be interesting to see how that plays along. Yeah.
But and so I believe it was 5% of NBA players and staff and everything like that tested positive.
So what percentage? How many positive tests would it take to shut things down?
I don't think, from what I read, I think if something happens, they'll approach it. I don't think there's a set number. I think they're just, look, this is what we're doing. We're testing you now. Our hope is that testing you consistently over this month, we will assure ourselves of bringing everybody healthy to a clean bubble, and then.
But baseball's not going to be in a bubble. Really. I mean, they're going to be carefully monitored. What do you think, Cornelius? Do you think there's chances that leagues will be stopped?
Well, I think the big challenge is, what if a basketball team loses 2 of their key players? So then, I mean, that's a big blow.
Right. It's a big blow, but they still have, 10, 11 more players. They're going to have expanded rosters, so they'll still be able to put bodies out. That's a real issue, though. And it's
but then if you're trying to win, that's also another thing. Or if you're just trying to play, or you're trying to win. So
I think, and to your point, Cornelius, that's a fair one. What happens if it's Antetokounmpo or Kawhi Leonard that gets sick? And so, Daryl, with distant learning this year, we gave kids grades on their report card, but if we're speaking to what it actually was, we were grading parents,
which is right, which is unfair, but it's real. Yeah,
that's what we were doing. We were grading and assessing the parents' ability to get their kids online, especially at our young age.
Yeah. All right. So
this year, sports we have to face it. Sports is not going to be, let's see who the best team is.
Right.
It's going to
be who survives. Who survives
this year. And so I think if we approach it that way, let's see what NBA team survives.
Right. And let me just say one last thing before we stop. And so college football is going to be very interesting. Already some traditional black colleges have postponed their season. I assume that the Power 5 teams will be playing, but it's interesting to see, what's going to happen. The players are now on the campus beginning their warm-ups. So
that one I think is going to be a big challenge, because I mean the players are within the whole student body, and if there's an outbreak, they're also getting affected. So college sports, we'll see what's going to happen.
All right. We'll see you next week, and thanks a lot for listening to Baker and Big D.